Oh, yeah, we're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. And you've just crossed over into the trend zone. Casey here with Dave. We are the football dudes. Dave, are you ready, bro?
Dude, I'm ready for this show. Yeah, you got that right, my
Right
friend.
on, baby. The next stop, the trend zone. It's Wednesday, November 15th. We're coming to you from Los Angeles, California. It's a cold and rainy 58 degrees. Burr.
Woo, rain. I know. Shocking.
What we always say in LA, well, we need it. We need the rain.
Yeah, yeah. We get the elements too.
Yeah. In today's episode, we'll talk some bummer news that's giving the Browns the blues. The Bills find their fall guy. The Pro Bowl is no mo, and the Rams are moving again, Dave.
Oh
Huge
no.
news. All of that. And we're going to preview all of the games from the upcoming week. My pockets are empty, Dave, but I know you've got the tasty nug for the peoples.
Yes, this is a good one. Hits home, unfortunately, on the negative side of the equation. But Casey, 6 teams last week: Arizona, Cleveland, Denver, Detroit, Houston, and Seattle converted the walk-off field goal to win the game. The most winning scores, game winning scores, with no regulation time left in a single week in NFL history. And we talk about every week in this Nug section, it seems like how close the NFL is. And that's what makes it so great. And this is just more evidence of that. It continues to be a game of
It's the
inches,
best.
a second or two, who's got the ball last, whatever you want to say. All of these 6 games come down to a walk-off field goal. Mind blowing.
Oh, and the Broncos got a little reprieve to get on that
Woo!
list. We'll get to the fallout from that in a minute, but I did
Ugh.
want to let the peoples know the Trend Zone is now available for subscription. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast. Dave, got some big news
Yes, sir.
coming out of Cleveland. Party over here, y'all. Well, not actually a party. Deshaun, again.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were wondering what the deal was with this chronic shoulder was. He was in, he was out, he was cleared, he wasn't playing. And now we know it was something more serious that was underlying there. Deshaun Watson to go undergo season-ending surgery on the shoulder there that's been bugging him. I guess it got worse. I don't know. Did he take a big hit there? And they need immediate surgical repair to avoid further structural damage for his quote displaced fracture, which does not sound very nice at all.
Mm-mm.
So I'm guessing that is a pretty significant shoulder injury and ensuing surgery. So good luck to him getting better. I guess I don't want to say any karmic nonsense or anything, but I hope he does all right in the surgery.
Yeah, and he asked the team if he could get some massage therapy for it, and they said, "No, we're just gonna go ahead and get the surgery. We'll leave that to another time. Surgery is on tap, bro."
Well said,
Oh.
sir.
Well, we talked about this just a minute ago, how the Broncos made that list of getting the last second win,
Yeah.
which it shouldn't have, but the fallout from that is in Buffalo. So when
Yeah. Tell you what, the Bills announced firing of offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey in his second season after being the quarterback's coach for 3 seasons, and then the Dayball took off there. Joe Brady gets the promotion, and of course he was wildly successful in college, but not so much when he was with the Panthers there and in that situation. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Casey, to me, this one a little bit of a bummer in the sense that this guy gets fired. He's offensive coordinator. The reason they lost this game and the firing comes directly after this situation is they had 12 men on the field for a field goal that the
yeah.
Broncos missed, and the 12 men gave another kick to the Broncos, and they lose the game unless Ken Dorsey was on the field and he was the 12th man.
He
I
might
don't
have
see how
been.
this correlates at all.
Yeah, I know. It's either on the defensive coach, the special teams coach,
Oh,
or the
wait, the
head coach.
defensive coach is the head coach, Casey.
Oh,
Somebody
okay.
else has
Well,
got to go.
that guy can't go.
Right.
You know who the real winner of this though is, Dave? Clipboards. They're safe. All right, Dave. Any more news happening in the AFC East?
Yeah, Jets cut Michael Carter. This guy seemed like an awesome two to the 1-2 punch once they got Brees Hall,
Hmm.
but they get
Cook,
Dalvin Cook in
Dalvin
the
Cook.
mix
Yeah.
there, and suddenly
Hi.
Michael Carter's, you know what, get out of here. We've had enough of you. Picked up by the Cardinals though, so that didn't take long for Michael Carter. Obviously, he's shown that he can run
Yeah.
the rock in the NFL, so makes sense that he would get another go round, and maybe just with a new situation, a fresh start, he
Yeah.
can be in a good situation. The Cardinals right now kind of on the uptick.
Yeah. We'll get into them in a little bit. Maybe they just got sick of having two Michael Carters on
That's
the
it
roster, and it
was
was just too
confusing.
confusing. Like,
Michael
we got to
Carter,
get
get
rid
on the
of
field.
Michael Carter.
No.
Cut. Wrong one. Oops. All right. And speaking of AFC East, what about these Dolphins? Haven't got enough of them? You're going to get more.
Yeah, boy, I can't wait to get more Mike McDaniel with the headset on and the cool glasses. You know what? It's Hard Knocks, Casey, in season with the Miami Dolphins. That will begin Tuesday, November 21st, 9 p.m. on HBO, also known as Max. And it'll go on if they make the playoffs, which it seems likely at this point that they would. It would continue on for additional episodes. So that would be kind of cool.
I'm going to commit to watching this, Dave. I committed to last year's and I never made it, but this year I'm in, baby. You
I'm
watch.
doubling down on this one.
I'm going to see at least one episode.
All right.
And Dave, it's been in flux. They've tried to do a bunch of stuff, but the NFL officially pulled the plug on the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. And they've come up with a new kind of deal to really officially replace it. It had gotten obviously to the point where it was virtually unwatchable. So good news is they're making it into a couple of skills competitions, including the flag football Sunday game, linemen participating in a skills related activity. Um, so it's going to be kind of cool. You know, they'll probably have some of those whatever quarterback challenges or something like that. Maybe some relay or obstacle courses. I'm just speculating at this point, but it's good news. And the winner of the Pro Bowl side will get $88,000 per player, and the losing team 44,000. So it doesn't suck to be a loser, but it's better to win, I guess. Double up.
Yeah, I'll take that 44K. And maybe these
Yeah.
guys are just practicing flag to get ready for flag football in the Olympics when it comes to Los Angeles.
Ooh,
What
that's
they need to do, though, is make it like a battle of the network stars and have them do all kinds of obstacles and
that's
running and
right.
bike rides and all that stuff. That would be pretty sweet.
Exactly.
And Dave, the Rams are moving again.
Casey, there still are Los Angeles Rams,
Oh,
dude, because they're just moving their practice facility. They're going to be moving to Woodland Hills, which was recently acquired by Stan Kroenke in its entirety, I believe. And so the new facility there will be plopped into that situation where Kroenke will be able to benefit from all the surrounding things there. Come in, see the Rams, and then spend money and hand your money over to Kroenke. So it does seem like, Casey, and as we speculated, that it's going to be a pretty neat facility.
yeah.
Kroenke doesn't go cheap, right?
Mm-mm.
So expect this thing to be a top-notch facility. I don't know, maybe even rivaling the Cowboys facility, known
Nothing
as
rivals the star, Dave.
oh,
Nothing. It's the
okay.
best thing in the history of the world.
Well, maybe this will shake up the Chargers organization, who are building their new facility in El Segundo, which does look pretty incredible. So it will
Yeah.
be interesting to see where these two new facilities fall on the spectrum of facilities. But those type of things do attract players
Oh,
when
hell
there
yeah.
is something so incredibly cutting edge and state of the art that is part of what they get to do on a daily basis. That is an appealing component to a free agency situation.
And dude, this is the future where everybody's going to eventually get here. Having this kick-ass standalone facility where you can come see the team practice, you can have lunch. There's going to be hotels. There's going to be a ton of stuff
Yep.
there. And this is actually a nice little pocket in town too. And just like everybody from the West Side, Dave, we all end up in the Valley, right?
Eventually, right?
Yeah.
I'm hanging on out here, Casey.
Hold on for dear life, baby. You know what? I
Yeah.
came kicking and screaming, and I like it now. I can always park. So
Yeah.
it's got its advantages, but not that a cool marine layer. I got
The
that.
West Side.
Oh
Sometimes I
yeah.
go over the hill. No, not really.
Maybe for like the first night of the draft.
That's right.
One night in April, you'll be over on this side of town. And then other than that,
If necessary, I can
yeah.
make the trek.
All right, Dave. Let's get into these games. You ready for this? It
Oh,
is
sweet.
Yeah, it's week 11.
Week 11?
Week 11.
Casey, it's slipping away. It's slipping away, man. I can't believe we're this far into the season.
Like sands through the hourglass, Dave. Oh my God. Where does
Jeez,
it go?
can't believe it, man.
We're
We wait so
burning
long
through
for it to
this thing.
start, and here we just fly through the thing.
I know. Next week is Thanksgiving. We have the triple header on Thursday. Before we get there, let's hang with week 11.
Yeah.
The Falcons, Colts, Patriots, and Saints all on bye. But Dave, we got a tasty game on Thursday night. The Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are 3.5-point favorites in this one. It's a rematch of week 2 that the Ravens won 27-24. Let me go ahead and talk about these Ravens.
Yeah, Casey, I'm going to be handling the Ravens for this one, Casey. So step back, listen to this deluxe story on the Ravens. 7-3, Baltimore on top of the AFC North, Casey. Second best record in the AFC. They were on a 3-game win streak before choking away last week's game to the Browns, 33-31. Seems like all the games they've lost, they've somehow choked away late after looking like they had them locked up. Last week, though, Lamar totaled 264 yards. So it wasn't like they didn't get it done. They just found a way to lose there. In the week 2 meeting, he completed 72%, almost 73% of his passes, and 237 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks, and rushed for 54 yards in that game, which they narrowly got into the W column there. He leads all quarterbacks in the league with 481 rushing yards on the season. He can be the first QB ever with 500 plus rushing yards in each of his first 6 seasons of his
Wow.
career. So obviously he's going to hit that mark at this point in time unless something tragic happened. His go-to guy, tight end Mark Andrews, had a touchdown in that week 2 meeting, and he leads all tight ends with 6 receiving touchdowns on the season. Very productive anywhere on the field, but certainly in the red zone. Last week, Zay Flowers led the team with 5 catches, 73 yards. He had 62 yards in that week 2 meeting, and Odell Beckham has a touchdown catch in 2 straight games. So looking for a third straight for Odell. He's kind of finding his niche there.
Coincidence, Dave, right after he was cut from the Foul Boys.
How does these things line up like this, Casey? The Ravens offensively lead the NFL in rushing at almost 155 yards rushing per game. Gus Edwards, he rushed for a touchdown in 4 games in a row, so he's clicking. And he rushed for 62 yards in TD in that week 2 meeting. And Keaton Mitchell, we've been talking about him on the Astronomical Fantasy Show for the last couple weeks, exploding onto the scene for the last 2 games. He's got more than 65 yards and a rush touchdown in each of those last 2 games. So, and limited touches with that those explosive numbers. Baltimore's defense number 1 with sacks with 39 on the season, 15 takeaways, but they're just +1 in the turnover ratio, as we know, because they've sort of fumbled away or turned over some of those situations, which end up losing those football games for them. They are 3rd in yards and 4th versus the pass defensively. So a really strong defense there, and 1st in points given up at just under 16. So Baltimore defense playing very well. Roquan Smith, this is crazy, had 21 tackles in week 10.
Holy
Those tackles by
smokes.
any player in a game this season, man, at that pace, explosive, crazy number of tackles.
Yeah.
Clowney, 6 tackles and 2 sacks last week too. So, with the Bengals playing like they're playing, the Ravens are going to have to avoid those miscues that I was talking about, if they want to get the sweep on for this season series. And this is a huge one, obviously divisionally.
Oh, yeah, dude. And shockingly, at the moment, the Bengals are on the outside of the playoffs looking in.
Yeah.
But before last week, many were thinking, me included, that maybe these Bengals were the best team in the AFC, maybe the NFL.
Yeah.
And maybe they are. And, dude, really, if Tyler Boyd makes that catch late last week, since he wins that game and perception is way different. But in reality, they'd won 4 in a row, probably should have been 5. So, pretty brutal schedule down the stretch, though. 2 versus the Steelers and games versus the Jags and Chiefs. But the plus side of that, 7 of their 8 games are versus AFC teams. Little good news, it looks like Trey Hendrickson will play in this one as he was able to practice this week, but they will be without their other defensive end, Sam Hubbard, and since he will also be without T. Higgins. So if you
Ooh.
need a streamer for fantasy, Trenton Irwin, he might be a little bit down on your list, but he is definitely an option worth looking at. Both of these teams coming off massively disappointing losses. Like you said, a huge divisional game.
It is going to be a good one. There's no
Oh,
question,
yeah.
folks. You do not want to miss that one. They finally, not like all of them were bad, but this one for a Thursday nighter is fantastic. Okay, Casey, moving into the early slot of games on Sunday, we'll get things going with the big one for you. It's your Dallas Cowboys at the Carolina Panthers. The Cowboys on the road, favored by 10.5. Nice number.
Damn, some big ass spreads for these Cowboys. And Dallas looked great last week, but it was against the Giants. Nonetheless, Dak was outstanding, 404 yards, 5 touchdowns. Dude, and CD Lamb is on a freaking tear. Became the first player in NFL history with 10 plus catches and 150 plus receiving yards in 3 straight games.
Wow.
But this would actually be a good game to try to get the run going, which is really the only thing still missing from this Dallas offense. Rico Dowdle, pretty good last week, 12 for 79. That's 6.6 per carry. Also had a touchdown. I would like to see Rico get more carries on early downs and earlier in the game. Let
Yeah.
him do some of that dirty work and then let TP be the back to break it open later once you kind of punch that defensive line a little bit. So if Dallas plays mistake free, the Panthers should not be in this game at all.
Yeah.
Carolina does hope to get Chuba and Miles Sanders going. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day for Bryce Young, as are the growing pains of a rookie QB. Frank Reich is taking over play calling on offense again. A little worried. I usually like that to come the game after. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want an
Because
infusion
that
of
could give
life in
him a
there.
little spark, right?
Yeah, so hopefully it does not.
Yeah. I mean, if the Cowboys can shut down that Panther ground game, and then they'll just be licking their chops, man. That's that the Panthers have got to get something going, moving the football on the ground.
Let's hope not. All right, Dave, up next is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. This is a rematch from Monday Night Football in week 2 that the Steelers won 26-22. Obviously, the biggest news of the day, Deshaun Watson season-ending shoulder surgery. If you're playing along at home, Dave, the Browns have paid Watson just under $8 million per start.
Woo!
Not happy about this injury, but happy that this contract is blowing up in the organization's face.
Yeah. We're still bitter about the guaranteed $230 million to that dude. But I digress. Let's talk the Steelers here, Casey. The 6-3 Steelers, who I basically bag on every week on this very show, are coming off yet another win, a 23-19 win over the Packers in a game they could have easily lost. But Pittsburgh has a winning record despite being negative 26 in the points differential. Pittsburgh also statistically, and again, I'm gonna say this is the bad part, and I'm coming Steeler fan to the good stuff later. They are one of the worst offenses and defenses in the league. On offense, they're 30th in yards and 26th in points at just over 17 a game, ranking 29th in passing and just 20th in rushing, the Steelers, right? And they've gotten the running game going lately, though. Last week, running backs Najee Harris had 96 scrimmage yards in his third rushing touchdown of the season. Jalen Warren had a career high 101 yards and his second TD of the season. So they're getting it going on the ground. The week before that, they were pretty good on the ground, too. All right. On defense, they are 29th in yards, 27th versus the pass, tied for 24th versus the runs. But they do seem to do just enough to get things done. They're tied for 11th in points given up with just over 20 points a game. And they're tied for first in both takeaways with 18 and in the turnover ratio with plus 10. So there's the story. If they can run the ball and make timely plays on defense, they'll be in every game. And they always seem to pull out the win in the close ones. So give
Yeah.
credit to the Steelers, man. They do just enough to find a way to eke out a victory. Other teams can do the same thing except lose the football game.
Yeah, I think the Steelers are 6-0 in one scored games this year. It's like the Tomlin effect, man. That guy,
Credit. You got
yeah,
it. I mean, it's something, right?
yeah. And he likes Kenny Pickett, so they're gonna stick with him and see if he gets it going. The guy does have a knack for showing up in the biggest moments. So,
True.
um, and Warren's gonna get more carries there. But let me talk about these Brownies. Obviously, we mentioned Deshaun
Yeah.
and his $8 million per start. And I'm not happy that he's hurt by any means. It's just this moronic contract, dude.
Yeah,
Nobody likes it. It's so stupid.
yeah,
And desperate is as desperate does. But
yeah.
they're going to go back to Dorian Thompson Robinson, which we like, a UCLA
Yeah,
guy.
what is he like? $400,000 a game or something?
Yeah, I'm no math wizard, but I don't know if you're getting that ROI
I'm
with
happy they're going back to DTR. That stokes me out, man. I'm going to be watching that game with hoping that he plays well.
Yeah, and hopefully he can get it going a little bit. He really struggled in his only start of
He
the
did.
season against the Ravens. You just mentioned how great their defense was. 19 of 36, 121 yards, and 3 interceptions. Got to clean that up. Need to see
Woo.
him do a little bit with his legs too. And the
Yes.
Browns need to be able to run to keep pressure off of DTR, especially from TJ Watt, because that dude will wreck a game. And shockingly, though, stopping the run has been a problem for the Steelers this year. But where Cleveland makes their money, dude, is defense. One of the best in the league. They
Yep.
lead the NFL in total defense, only 242 yards a game. Also lead in pass defense, 151 per game. They're going to need Myles Garrett though to be special in against the Steelers, but that hasn't been a problem, dude. He's tied for the league lead in sacks with 11. Right now, these Browns are the 6th seed. So
Wow.
they're going to need Myles Garrett and that defense to keep being amazing, to keep these Brownies in the mix, especially with the uncertainty of what they're going to get out of the quarterback position moving forward.
Yeah, they've managed to set themselves up pretty nicely with their record, but now obviously with the uncertainty of the quarterback position, who knows if that's going to be enough to give them that ability to make it to the playoffs, and then what will they do when they get there?
Yeah. Ooh.
All right, Casey, moving along. It is the Chicago Bears at the Detroit Lions, and wow, this one it's like a role reversal from all of the history of our childhoods watching these two teams play, right? Nine
Yeah.
and a half point favorites are the Lions at home.
Yeah. And maybe that line is going to come down a little bit because there's good news for Bear fan. Justin Fields is expected to start this game.
Oh, okay.
One thought is to not rush him back, but the Bears really need to know if they're using that Carolina pick on a quarterback in next year's draft or trading it for a shit ton of draft picks to build around Justin Fields. So I could see them going both ways. They're obviously going to push him into that. It's weird because they have one more game and then a bye coming up, but
Hmm.
there's people that make more money to make those decisions for me. The
Right.
Bears have 6 of 7 versus NFC teams on the back half of the season, including 4 divisional games. Not quite in hibernation, but close. Lions currently the 2 seed within striking distance of catching the Eagles for that 1 seed. They can't afford to mess around with these stupid Bears. Get this win and get ready for Green Bay on a short week.
Yeah, that Lions team is. You can hear the roar, man. They are coming. I would. I would bet the Lions were going to take care of those Bears this weekend and not let a game like
Yeah.
this get in their way of really putting pressure on to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. They're playing real good football.
Oh man, Detroit deserves that. You know what I mean? To
Yeah,
see there's a lot of football to be played, but how stoked would it be for them to get that bye and
yeah,
how crazy would it be in
yeah.
Detroit?
The
Ooh,
way
with
they
the
beat
one
the
seed.
Chargers 41-38 last week, it was one of the most entertaining football games that you'll see ever.
Yeah,
And I got to give them credit. That was a hell of a performance from the Lions,
yeah.
and I just outdid my Chargers.
And Dan Campbell, man, he told his family to wear diapers on 4th down because he is going for it.
That
Love
was the
that
play
guy,
that won
dude.
them the game, in my opinion.
Yeah,
If they decided to kick that field goal with a minute and a half left or whatever it was, they were going to lose. He
yeah,
made the right call. He had faith in his guys, and he put the ball in the hands of Goff, and they
yeah.
made the play.
That's right. All right, Dave. Well, speaking of your Chargers, it is your
Yep.
Los Angeles Chargers at the Green Bay Packers, and the Chargers are 3-point favorites on the road.
Yep. And as I mentioned, Chargers dropped to 4-5 after losing that shootout to Detroit last week. It was an awesome football game. Unbelievably, the Chargers scored on their last 5 drives a touchdown.
Wow.
In the last 40 minutes of the game, they scored a touchdown on every single possession, and yet they still lost. This is the first team in NFL history to do that. The defense just couldn't get the stop they needed there late. But quarterback Justin Herbert was phenomenal. 323, 4 touchdowns, Austin Eckler, 115 scrimmage yards and a touchdown. He's going for his fourth game in a row with 7+ scrimmage yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen continues to absolutely tear it up. Underappreciated in this league. Check the numbers, folks. I'm not kidding. 11 catches last week, 175 yards and 2 scores. Even Quentin Johnson and Jalen Guyton, fresh back off of a year off with the ACL, each had a touchdown last week. Things were really clicking for that offense. The Bolts defense, though, has been the issue. Last in total yards versus the pass, 24th in points given up, and nearly 24 points a game. And the Chargers defense has actually been really good at getting after the passer with 31 sacks on the season. The defense has 15 takeaways. The Chargers are +8 in the turnover ratio. All those would lead you to believe that the Chargers would have above 500 record.
Mm-hmm.
Not the case. They just haven't been able to cash in on that. They've got a lot of those sacks against the crappy teams, and they can't get after the quarterback when they're a good team. Here come the Pack. At 3-6, the Pack have lost 5 of the last 6, including last week's loss to the Steelers. Despite that loss last week, though, Jordan Love had a career-high 289 through the air with 2 touchdowns. Aaron Jones had 54, and Dylan had 81 scrimmage yards. So they got things going there with also receivers Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed had a TD catch as well. So a lot of positives there. Even Luke Musgrave had a career high with 64 yards. They will have to put that thing together on offense in order to keep up with the Chargers offense. Even as bad as the Chargers defense is, they're going to get some sacks and turnovers there and force some 3-and-outs. So the Chargers can't be much worse defensively, but the Packers have got to take advantage of it because the Chargers offense is absolutely on fire right now.
Yeah, dude. And you mentioned Keenan Allen. I think I read that he's got the most games with 11+ catches in NFL history. So
he also has the most games with 14 catches and the most games with 18 catches.
Sick.
He's nuts.
Crazy. Yeah, man.
All right. Up next, it is the Arizona Cardinals at the Houston Texans. The Cardinals surprisingly feisty lately, especially with their quarterback back. But the Texans really impressive this season. At home, the Texans are favored by 4.
Yeah, you mentioned Kyler Murray. He's back, and he looked pretty good in his season debut. And C.J. Stroud has looked pretty good in his debut season. Kyler, John Connor, healthy. With those guys back in the lineup, Jonathan Gannon can get a better evaluation of his team moving forward. So I can see why you're playing those guys and letting that high draft pick just kind of fall wayside. Now, these Texans, dude, all of a sudden, they're in the playoffs. They're currently the 7th seed.
Wow.
But if they win this week, next week they're hosting the Jags, who they've already beat once. That would be for first place in the AFC South. So all of a sudden, the Texans could be in control of the South on a rookie quarterback. Who saw that coming?
It's mind-blowing, dude. The NFL has got twists and turns.
Yeah.
You just cannot predict this stuff.
No, D'Amico Ryan's got that team playing awesomely. He's probably in there for a Coach of the Year consideration. So lots to be stoked for down there in H-Town.
Yeah. A lot of football left to play, but
true.
Boy, what they have.
Nobody had them playing for first place in week 12. Are you kidding?
For maybe first draft pick. Right? Okay.
All right, wow. Dave. Up next, we have keep it in the South. Tennessee Titans at those Jacksonville Jags, and the Jags are 6.5-point favorites at home.
Yep. And Tennessee would seem to be a long shot at best to make the playoffs this season. 3-6 record. The most important thing now may be to get a good look at what they have at quarterback with Will Levis there. Played great in his first game, has sort of been hit and miss, cooled off quite a bit since then. But they do have still got Derrick Henry there. They've got Tyjae Spears to give them a legitimate run threat, right? Not to mention DeAndre Hopkins. So some of these guys, though, will be playing somewhere else next year. Who's who on that list, we don't know at this point in time. Jacksonville was on a 5-game winning streak before getting absolutely blown out last week, 34-3 by the 49ers in a 49ers get-right game there. Man, I didn't see that coming, though. That seemed like a great matchup. Still, they're in first place in the AFC South, as you mentioned previously. But the division lead is now just 1 game over Houston and 1.5 over Indy. Uh-oh, what the heck? Yeah, I know. So things are a lot tighter in the division after last week's loss. Overall, Jacksonville's offense, though, has been above average in most stacks. The defense is 23rd in yards, but they're not as good at defending the pass, ranking just 30th. So will that come into play in this matchup? Interesting. If Levis can get the passing game going, it could get interesting. But the Jags are going to be looking to get that taste of last week's loss out of their mouths and get back into the winning column. This is going to be a fun game. I imagine the Jags get right here.
Yeah, totally. All right, Dave. Excuse me. Up next, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Miami Dolphins, and those fish,
Woo.
for all intents and purposes, are 12-point favorites at home.
Big spread here, Casey. And you seem to be a little shocked at this spread. I was not. I feel like the Dolphins are ready to go ahead and get swimming again here at 6-3 coming off their bye, right? But the prior week, they went to Frankfurt, Casey, looking to Van Ginkel, the Chiefs, but they came
Yes.
up short. And they look like the ones wearing the Lederhosens as they lost that game to the Chiefs, right? Tua, though, he can pass for 193 in that game, well beneath his average, which is over 300 yards a game. And he had just one TD, again, off the blistering pace that they've set this season. The Dolphins lead the NFL still in total offense at 435 plus yards a game and scoring at almost 32 points a game. Mostart had 85 yards and a touchdown in their last game. Of course, they're coming off the bye. He has 11 touchdowns. That leads the league for running backs rushing, right? The Finns are looking to get back Devon Achane in this one, who has 527 yards in just 4 games this season. So he's averaging almost 132 yards a game rushing. He hasn't played since week 5. So that would be a huge get if they get him back. Not good for my fantasy, though. I digress. Tyreek Hill leads the NFL in 1,076 yards and 8 receiving TDs this year, along with Waddle and Cedric Wilson. There's plenty of weapons for Mike McDaniels to utilize here. The defense, though, a bit below average, and their worst category is points given up, where they're 26th in the league, giving up 25 points a game. They are good at getting after the quarterback with 29 sacks. Bradley Chubb has a sack in 4 straight games, looking to make that 5 this weekend. Raiders are going to have their hands full, Casey, slowing down this offense. And that rookie quarterback is probably going to be forced to pass to keep pace. That's when the Dolphins defense can get after it and get some more sacks, turnovers, blah, blah, blah.
Dave, Vegas vibes are high, and so am I, baby.
Woo!
Maybe it's just the tasty nugs talking, but I am enjoying these new look Raiders. They have won 2 in a row and
True.
are undefeated with Antonio Pierce as the interim head coach, looking to get rid of that interim and be the guy moving forward. You
Yep.
mentioned the rookie quarterback, AOC, Aiden O'Connell, 2-1 as a starter. He's going to have a huge test this week, obviously, with those Dolphins. He hasn't been great, but he's kept them in games, and he hasn't made the catastrophic mistake. Had
True.
the pick against your Chargers back in the day, but he's gotten a little more playing under his belt since then. Another rookie, tight end Michael Mayer, he had his first TD last week, and he just straight mossed that defender in the end zone. That's why they went up and got this guy.
Yeah.
Pretty solid, and he's looking better every game too. And Devontae Adams, he's looking pretty gruntled. A
Yeah.
big difference
Reborn, right?
a few weeks ago, yeah, on Monday Night Football. So, like I said, the vibes are high there. But if this feel-good story is going to continue, it's going to be because of Josh Jacobs. Under Pierce, Jacobs is coming off his 2 best rushing games of the season. But last week, dude, it was how he took the game over late. And that's what this guy did last season, leading the league in rushing. Last week, 27 for 116, 4.3 per carry. That's his best yards per carry of this season. Defense is just okay, but Max Crosby is a bad mofo, and he sets the tone for the entire team. Bad news for this Pirates tale, though. After this road game, they play the Chiefs twice in their next 4 games. The good news, it's a complete logjam between 7 and 14. Lots still to be determined in that AFC playoff race.
Yeah, Casey, and I want to get back to one thing you said about Jacobs, and it was the last year versus this year, McDaniels and the way he was being utilized. He said that when he got into the game preparations for this game, he was asked which plays he liked. He was asked which ones he preferred, and guess what? Those were the ones they were calling.
Hello,
Sure enough,
McFly.
you run his favorite 6 or 7 or 8 plays, and those are the ones he's ready to kick butt on. And sure enough, he's reborn, and now you've unleashed Josh Jacobs onto the league. That is their ticket to winning this
Oh
football game.
yeah, dude. I was talking to Kaz the other day. I was like, this guy might take the Green Bud Packers to a fantasy playoff because they're finally using them. Why
Yeah,
wouldn't you have done that early on? Like, you know that, I know that. We're not
yeah,
getting paid millions of dollars to coach. It's like, hello, set up your star players for
yeah.
success. Seems
McDaniel's
easy.
was like, push the player into my system rather than
Mhm.
mold the system to the player. You know,
Yeah, I know.
big difference.
Crazy. Yep.
All right, Casey, moving along. It is the New York Giants at the Washington Commanders. Commanders, a 9.5 point favorites at home in a divisional battle.
Dave, what is worse, to be disappointingly awful or to be awfully disappointing?
Oof. Ugh.
Well, the G Men are disappointingly awful, and the Commandos are awfully disappointing.
Okay.
Even so, dude, these Commandos are just on the outskirts of being right in the mix. A couple more wins, and they're in there. Destroying a bad Giants team is going to get them a little bit closer to that mix. DeVito getting another start for the G Men.
Oof.
I expect bad things for those guys unless Saquon goes off for 1,000,000 yards. Probably going to be a Washington win.
Yeah, I tell you what, the way Howell's played, way better than a fifth rounder from last year that got so little experience, and then they just gave him the job. It was like, what? Now we see what they were seeing, right?
Yeah.
The guy can sling it.
Yeah.
All right, moving along to the late slot, Casey. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the San Francisco 49ers. Niners at home are favored by an 11.5 point favorite. Wow.
Yeah, dude. The Niners respond to their three straight losses by demolishing the Jags 34-3. They got Debo back. They got Williams back last week, and it showed. It's a completely different team.
Yeah.
Two really good defenses, but Baker will have to be special to give the Bucks a chance to pull the upset on the road. I don't really see that happening. A lot will have to go wrong for the Niners to lose this game.
No question. And the way, like you said, Debo coming back is like, oh, I forgot how. Yeah, he's a huge impact. We're getting him back on the field, and McCaffrey just seems to be consistent and
Yeah.
devastating.
Yeah, they got it right against a really good Jags team on the road.
They
So
did. Yep.
might be bad news for the Bucks. All right, Dave. Up next, we have the New York Football Jets at the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills are 7-point favorites in this one. Rematch of the season opener that Aaron Rodgers went down 4 plays into, and the Jets won in overtime, 22-16.
And I got to give it up for Jets fans. Jets fans, I feel your pain. I was a Jet fan last week, and I'll tell you, I gave it a try, and their 16-12 loss to the Raiders. And it is not an easy task to be a Jet fan. Okay, they are, in fact, though, on the positive side, 4-5, and Zach Wilson played pretty well last week, gaining a season high 317 yards, including 54 rushing yards. Right, really getting it going there on the ground there with his legs. Garrett Wilson, 93 yards. Tyler Conklin, 7 catches, 70 yards. So there were some really bright spots in that football game.
Dude, it
Found a
was
way
that
to,
Conklin defensing the last pass that was going right to Garrett Wilson. If he doesn't get up and get the
yeah,
arm, Garrett Wilson's catching that ball and coming down, and the Jets are winning that game.
yeah. Not to mention Brees Hall, Dalvin Cook running the ball well, a combined 134 scrimmage yards for those two dudes. It's the Jets defense is very good, right? They rank third against the pass, but they're 31st versus the run, which is not very good. Bills are also a very big disappointment at 5-5 right now, coming off that loss to the Broncos, where they found a way to lose that football game. We already talked about it on Monday Night Football.
Oh,
The propensity for them to turn the ball over and again in the same game where they're just like, man, they can't just get out of their own way. They're tied for second worst in the league with 18 giveaways. They have a -3 turnover differential. Jets, by the way, are +1. James Cook led the team with 120 scrimmage yards. Lat Murray rushing for a season high 68 yards and a touchdown. So many good things going here, but too many mistakes lost in the game, exemplified by the 12 men on the field at the end. Both these teams would be out of the playoffs as they started to get to the day today. Of course, we mentioned Dorsey's gone off of the Bills stat. I'm sure that's going to give them a spark offensively. I don't know. Did they really need a spark offensively? They just need to not turn the ball over, right? needless to say, this is a huge game for both of these teams moving forward. Seems like you cannot lose another football game and still think you're in this AFC. When you mentioned the Pack goes whatever 13 deep or something in the AFC
Yeah.
with 4-win teams or 5-win teams. It's you can't afford to take a loss like this.
Yeah. And you can't lose a game that you have won. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
just like it's hard enough to win, and giving those wins away.
yeah. We always talk about it at the end of a season where your team underachieved and
Ugh.
you didn't make the playoffs. You look back and you go, there you have it. Week 2, week 4, whatever it was, that game cost us the playoffs.
And
That's
that's
what the
really
Bills might
what,
be saying
yeah,
about
that's what
last week's
Monday night
performance.
felt like to me. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, that was the one. We shall
could
see.
not
Still
afford
lots
that
of
loss.
football to be played, but that was brutal.
Needless to say, yeah.
All right, Dave, up next, we have the Seattle Seahawks at the Los Angeles Rams. Hawks are 1-point favorites on the road. This is a rematch of a week 1 game won by the Rams 30-13.
An impressive victory in week 1. The Seahawks, um, though, edged out the Commanders last week 29-26 in a close one there, right? Their record now 6-3. Geno Smith, a career high 369 passing yards in that one and 2 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker, 127 scrimmage yards and a TD catch. Tyler Lockett, 92 yards and a touchdown in that game. Metcalf had 98 yards. That's a season high 7 catches for Metcalf. And he had a TD in that week 1 meeting as well. So the 3-6 Rams, other side of the equation, coming off their bye. They lost 4 of the last 5 and perhaps hit a season low in the last game out with the 20-3 loss to the Green Bay Packers, right? The Rams hope to get Stafford back. Is that an
Yeah,
official?
I think he's supposed to play. I mean, we'll see as it gets closer to game time, but he is scheduled
Yeah.
to.
If that's the case, that will give them a huge lift. Cup had 9 catches and 136 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns in the last game against Seattle, but that wasn't the first one. That was last year because Cup missed the first one then. Puka Nakua had 10 catches, 119 in the week 1 game, and Tutu Atwell also had 6 catches, 119 in the week 1 meeting. So it could be a different game if these Rams can put it together with Stafford back. Um, if they want any chance to turn around the season, this is going to be a huge win for the Rams. Otherwise, the Seahawks obviously trying to keep pace with the Niners. They cannot afford to drop this game against the Rams.
Dude, and if Stafford can't go, it's Carson Wentz. This is like flashback to last year where they just brought in Baker Mayfield out of nowhere to be
Right.
the guy. So I don't
Who
know
did
if
they beat
Wentz
in
has
that
that
game?
dialed. Oh, was it the Raiders?
Okay.
Still brings Dave joy, baby.
Okay, the Bake Show. So
Yeah.
good. All righty. Sunday Night Football, Casey, is the Minnesota Vikings and the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are favored by 2.5 in this. This is a pretty interesting favorite, right, to me.
Dave, yeah, and this is a rematch of the Super Bowl that never was. The 1998 Minnesota Vikings, 15-1, one of the most prolific offenses ever. Were absolutely the best team in football. Gary Anderson missed his only field goal of the year.
Mr. Perfect.
Oh, made way for those Falcons and the Dirty Birds to get into the Super Bowl, and the Broncos ended up rolling them, dude. Those 98 Vikings may be the best team to never win a Super Bowl. But let's talk about these Vikings. And you cannot deny the energy and fusion Josh Dobbs has put into this team. Last week,
Oh
23
yeah,
of 34. That's almost 68%, 268 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 101 passer rating, 44 rush yards, and a touchdown. His rushing has been off the charts, man. He's
totally.
really extended plays and then made defenses pay the price when they can't make him throw because he's running that damn rock and he's doing a great job with it. So they're 2-0 with Josh Dobbs as a quarterback. And the Vikes are currently on a 5-game winning streak out of nowhere. You don't think about these guys doing that, but they are. And Justin Jefferson chomping at the bit to get back,
Woo.
which might be this week. He's getting mixed into practice, but at the latest, it would be after the week 13 bye, which does make a lot of sense. But since they're in the mix, if he can go, you get him out there. You don't want to risk hurting that hammy again because it's taken him so long to get back. But the run game still a work in progress. They really like Ty Chandler, and he will be given an opportunity to take over as RB1 for the Vikings A very aggressive and blitz heavy Brian Flores defense. These Vikings have 27 sacks and 14 takeaways, obviously led by Danielle Hunter. He leads the NFL with 14 TFLs and tied for first with 11 sacks. All but one of Minnesota's games have been within one score. So,
Just like last year, and they won them all last year. They
yeah,
started off 0-3 this year, which is crazy considering where they are right now.
yeah, and the problem was they just kept turning the damn ball over. They seem to be cleaning that up, and they're back to winning these close games, and that's why they are currently the seventh seed. How did this happen? Texans, Vikings getting into the playoffs. And there's also another planet, Dave, or a bizarro world where the Vikings catch the Lions as they play them twice in the last 3 weeks of the season. And luckily for the Vikings, they just brought in the Pastronaut who knows how to fly a rocket ship in theory. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but this is the NFL where we see the impossible happen every week.
Yes, we do. All right. Well, let's. Speaking of the impossible, the Broncos were buried at 1-5. They're now 4-5 on a three-game win streak, including beating the Chiefs and the Bills in their last two games, and they had a bye mixed in there too. Very efficient Russell Wilson last week. 29 passes, 83% completion, 2 touchdowns, no picks. In his last 3 games, 6 TDs, no interceptions, a
Wow.
115.8 passer rating, all wins. Needless to say, Wilson is tied. This is the shocking part. Tied for third in the NFL with 18 touchdown passes this season and fourth with a 104 quarterback rating. Didn't see that coming really
Mm-mm.
when they were kind of getting blown out in some of those earlier games this season, right? Javonte Williams has been very effective running the football lately. Led the team with a scrimmage high, a season high scrimmage yards of 110 and a touchdown last week. And the Broncos offense is 12th in running the football, but still just 28th in passing. So Russ is efficient, but they're not really pushing it downfield necessarily. The Broncos defense that was so bad earlier, they're still ranked 31st in total yards, right? They're last versus the run and in points. So it's hard to dig out of the statistical hole that they dug themselves earlier in the season, but they have played much better in this 3-game win streak, giving up just 16 points per game in that time period and just 9 in the game versus the Chiefs. So you hold the Chiefs to no touchdowns. That's playing some defense.
Yeah, Dave, and I think this was Kyoki's bet for the season. I think he
On
went
the
the under,
under.
which was I think 6.5. So he was feeling pretty good until a couple weeks ago.
Oh boy.
Oh man, the house always wins. The house
Yeah, he's
always
going to be a
wins.
Charger fan. We still play them twice. The Charger fans. He's gonna have to jump on board.
Oh yeah, there you go. All right, Dave, we got one more, baby.
Yeah.
Monday Night Football. It's the Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are 2.5 point favorites at home, and this is a rematch of Super Bowl 57. You might remember that game. The Eagles had a 10 point lead at
Eagles won.
halftime. Oh yeah, they're up by 10 at halftime. They're cruising. Oh, that was before Patrick Mahomes threw 2 fourth quarter touchdowns on his way to a second Super Bowl MVP and the Chiefs 38-35 win. BT Dub Day, both of these teams have the best record in their respective conferences.
I don't think the people needed a history lesson on last year's Super Bowl, Casey. The
Oh
nightmare
no.
recap was
Oh,
unnecessary.
it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
You are right, though, Casey. This is arguably the game of the weekend. That Thursday night one is a real good one, but this one looks really, really tasty on Monday Night Football. It's going to be good. Eagles coming off their bye. They've won 3 straight last game, beating your Cowboys, bring their record to a league best 8-1.
Sorry your mic went out, Dave. I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
Just picking up from here.
okay. I won't repeat it. The fans heard it. The Eagles are first team since the 2005-2006 Colts to begin 8-1 or better in consecutive seasons. So it's a pretty impressive tear that they're on. They just don't have the Super Bowl hardware to go with it, right? In the game, QB Jalen Hurts had 3 touchdown passes in their last game against the Cowboys. 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions, a 130 passer rating. And in the Super Bowl versus Kansas City, Hurts had 374 yards, had 4 touchdowns, no picks, In the last regular season meeting, he passed for 387, 2 touchdowns. So he has been very effective against the Chiefs. However, this Chiefs defense, as you'll I'm sure mention, has been playing some good football. This season, though, AJ Brown has 1,000 receiving yards already, his fourth career 1,000 yard season, but it's halfway through the season, right? 6 catches, 96 yards, and a receiving touchdown in that Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs. Devontae Smith has had a touchdown game in 2 straight games now, so he's really feeling good. And DeAndre Swift ranks 7th in the NFL rushing at over 600 yards this season, and the Eagles are ranked 8th in the league rushing the football. Overall, the Philadelphia offense 6th in yards, tied for 3rd in points at 28. They're top 10 in both passing and rushing, obviously
Ugh.
quite balanced there, and number 1 on 3rd down at 50%. Of course, the brotherly love, as with the brotherly shove, rather, is virtually unstoppable when they just need a yard or two. Eagles defense very good too, 16th in yards, number 1 versus the run, but just 28th versus the pass. That one might hurt this week, right? 25th on 3rd down too. Look out, because Mahomes is a monster on 3rd down, and tied for 18 points, 18th in points at 21.7 a game. Eagles defense is 5th in the NFL sacking the quarterback. That would come in handy this week.
Doesn't it seem like Mahomes? Oh, it's 3rd and 13. Mahomes rushes for 14. 3rd and 17. Mahomes for 18.
I mean, wake up with sweats in the middle of the night. Mahomes just got another 4. Oh, it's 18 yards this time.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's got the knack for it. But these Chiefs are in the midst of doing that Chiefs thing we've seen the last few years where somehow they're struggling to
Yeah,
the best record in the AFC. You
right.
know what I mean? It doesn't look pretty, but they still win. Mahomes not having his best season, but he's got the knack for performing when the lights are the brightest. He's won
Yeah,
11 of his past 12 starts in prime time and is 6-0 in his last 6 starts on Monday Night Football. That being said, these Chiefs still need to find a number 1 receiver that isn't Travis Kelce. All the other guys have flashed at time, but there hasn't been any consistency there.
yeah,
They have to get that fixed for a deep playoff run. Or maybe they don't, because it's the Chiefs.
yeah.
9 different Chiefs have caught a touchdown, but other than Kelce, only Jerick McKinnon has more than one. And after a long international week with his boo, hopefully Kelsey's ready to dominate the Eagles again. Know who else has been dominating? The Chiefs defense. You mentioned it, Dave. They're giving up under 16 points a game, under 300 yards a game, 31 sacks, 13 takeaways. Chris Jones is a beast. But
Absolutely.
the Chiefs stole Drew Tranquil. Go ahead and say it.
Former Cha-Cha?
That's right. They stole Tranquil from the Chargers, and he's having a monster season, dude.
Yeah.
Leads the team in tackles. George Karlaftis, the Greek god of sacks, leads the team with 6 of those bad boys. And as a unit, 40 TFLs, 40 tackle for losses for these Chiefs. Spag has these boys balling, and I don't want to jinx him, but kicker Harrison Butker, perfect on the season, 22 of 22 on PATs and 18 for 18 on field goals.
You jinxed him.
I did that for you just in case, Dave. I don't
Thanks.
want the Eagles to win, but
Missed
a
field
missed
goal
field goal,
loses the
yeah.
game?
Yeah.
Oh,
If
man,
I
I'll tell
did
you,
that, I'm going to
what a
feel bad.
game. And it's interesting. It's almost like the Chiefs' defense is really what's driving this Chiefs
Yeah.
to having the best record in the AFC right now. The defense, which was featuring tons of rookies and unheard of dudes last season that matured along the way, won a Super Bowl, and now Spags, like you said, they're running like a fine oil machine. They are crushing it defensively.
And dude, each year we've seen them kind of adapt to stay relevant, to stay ahead of the pack, meaning the rest of the NFL. When they lost to the Bucks in the Super Bowl, they revamped that offensive line.
Yeah,
You
a
know, they're
season later they
struggling.
got the best O line. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
And now they have one of the best, if not the best defenses. It's crazy. Chiefs
Good
being
coaching.
Chiefs. Yeah.
Got to give a lot of credit to the guy on top, the Big Red, right?
Yeah. And he's coming after your nuggies.
Yeah, yes.
So many ways you can check out the Football Dudes, the Trendzone, what you're listening to right now, available for subscription for free. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and we're now on Amazon Music.
That's right. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Instagram and Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Also name is known as X at Football Dudes LA. Make sure to tag us across all those social media platforms, please.
And while you're out there surfing the webs, go ahead and bookmark footballdudes.com. We are going to take care of you, people. That is going to do it for this episode of the Trend Zone. We're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. For Dave, I'm Casey. Dave, what are we?
We are out of here.
That's right. Enjoy the games.